Just after the game of basketball was invented in 1891, teams were called fives in reference to their five starting players. Basketball, like American society, was racially segregated. Black teams were often known as colored quints, Negro cagers, or black fives. The sport remained divided until 1904. Basketball was first introduced to blacks on a wide scale by Edwin Henderson, considered the grandfather of black basketball. He was a gym teacher for Washington, D.C. public schools and introduced the sport in physical education classes and at the 12th Street YMCA. His DC teams became Howard University's first varsity basketball team that won the National Basketball Championships in 1909 and 1910. Henderson said the new sport was not an immediate hit. Quote, it was first considered a sissy game, as was tennis in the rugged days of football, end quote. In 1906, he co-founded the Interscholastic Athletic Association of Middle Atlantic States, along with the M Street High School team, the Howard University team, and Armstrong Technical High School. The association was an amateur sports organization created to encourage intercollegiate and interscholastic academic competition. Dozens of all black teams were started in New York City, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and other cities. They were sponsored by churches, athletic and social clubs, businesses, newspapers, and black YMCA branches. By the 1912-1913 season, inter-city competition was robust and had grown into a network of towns and cities in just 4 seasons. These included Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Newark, Baltimore, Atlantic City, and college campuses, including Howard, Hampton, and Lincoln. After World War I, many veterans from Company E of the 372nd Colored Infantry Regiment, 93rd Division, formed a basketball team. The team was based in Springfield, Ohio, where many of the men that made up Company E had originally been called up to active duty from the 9th Separate Colored Infantry Battalion of the Ohio National Guard. The Company E squad played other black teams in the region, including the Center Street Colored YMCA of Springfield and the Pioneers, Keystones, and Swastikas of nearby Cleveland. The first independent black basketball team was the Smart Set Athletic Club of Brooklyn, New York, organized in 1907. They won the first colored basketball World's Championship. The first inter-city competition between two black teams was on December 18, 1908, between the Smart Set Athletic Club and the Crescent Athletic Club in Washington, D.C. Smart Set won the game. Music, dance, and basketball. Barred from the whites-only gymnasiums and athletic clubs, Black Fives teams played in church basements, armories, meeting halls, and dance ballrooms. Many of the flyers advertising their games offer basketball games and dance that combined ragtime, the music of the day, with basketball games as a way to bring in the crowds. Some of the clubs had chandeliers and a bandstand. Dancing took place before the game, at halftime, and after the game. They would set up a basketball post on each end of the floor. On the slippery floor, they outlined the sidelines and foul lines. It wasn't a big floor, far from the regular basketball floor size. In 1913, the game's two best teams were the Howard Big Five and Pittsburgh's Monticello Athletic Association. The Howard University team clearly had more talent and greater cohesion. Both teams had outstanding players. Howard's George Gilmore was the best center in the game. Ed Gray was the best defender, and Hudson Oliver was probably the second best player overall. But the title of best player overall belonged to Monticello's Cumberland Posey. Early female teams were right behind the men. The New York Girls were formed in early 1910 as the country's first independently run female all-black basketball team. The squad was organized, managed, and coached by Conrad Norman, a Jamaican immigrant who headed the Alpha Physical Culture Club in Harlem, the first black athletic club in history. The girls were the Alpha's sister organization. History was made on February 26, 1910, the date of the first recorded game between two independently organized all-black female teams, the New York Girls and a newly organized Cross River rival, the Jersey Girls. The New York Girls won. The Spartan Girls Athletic Club was also organized in 1910 in Brooklyn and were the sister team to the Smart Set Athletic Club. The Spartan Girls played home games at Avon Hall in Bedford-Stuyvesant, at the 71st Regiment Armory in Manhattan, and the Manhattan Casino in Harlem, with music by the J. Nimrod Jones Orchestra during halftimes and afterward. They dominated the competition in New York and New Jersey. The first all-black pay-for-play team was the New York All-Stars, formed in 1910 by Major A. Hart. Hart wrote that this game has taken a firm hold on our people has been demonstrated beyond a doubt. Now it is up to the players and their friends to advance the black game by not only forming a basketball league among the teams, but playing good, fast, clean games, eliminating therefrom all petty jealousies, quarrels, and little meannesses that have a tendency to disgust the people who assemble to witness these contests. We want to play the game as our white friends play it, that is, in the spirit of fairness and for the benefits that the exercise will give us and the enjoyment we can afford to our friends. The first professional team was the Commonwealth Big Five basketball team circa 1922. The McMahon brothers were white and owned the Commonwealth Casino in Harlem. They regularly competed with the Renaissance Big Five and won most contests between them. But the team did not draw large crowds and they disbanded play. Robert Douglas, a resident of New York City who had immigrated from the British West Indies in 1902, founded the Renaissance Big Five. The Wrens became one of the sport's top draws in Black and white America. They were named after the Renaissance Casino and Ballroom in Harlem, where they played their first game on November 3rd, 1923, a 28-22 victory over a white team called the Collegiate Five. The highlight of the Wrens' long history was an 88-game winning streak from January 1st, 1933, through a game on March 27, 1933, when they lost to the original Celtics. From 1932 to 1936, the Wrens had a remarkable 497-58 record. They would leave New York for months at a time, traveling thousands of miles and playing every night and twice on Sundays. Sometimes they slept on their bus because they couldn't find a place to stay under the prevailing Jim Crow laws. Once, an Indiana restaurant owner put a tall screen around the team's table to segregate the Wrens from the other customers. John Isaac, a standout player for the Wrens in the 1930s, credited with bringing the pick and roll play to the professional game, walked out. He sat in the bus and made a meal of salami on Ritz crackers. On the court, the Wrens faced hostile crowds, ruthless name calling, and overt biased referees. Their motto on the road was "Get 10," meaning that they wanted to come out and grab a quick 10-point lead. That was the 10 the officials were going to take away from you, Isaac recalls. In 1939, the Wrens went on a 112-7 sweep into Chicago and beat a top white pro team, the Oshkosh All-Stars, to win the first ever World Championship tournament. Women made respectable names in the sport. The article notes that the Philadelphia Tribune girls, the colored basketball champions for the 11th straight year, won their opening home game at the YWCA before a large crowd. The score was 65-31. The victims were the Roxborough Bobbies. Another very popular team was the Roma Girls. They joined the women's division of the Chicago City Basketball League in 1925, competing against white and black teams throughout the city and captivating fans across race and gender lines. They were undefeated for 6 seasons. This momentum of their successful play continued well into the 1930s, with barnstorming trips throughout the Midwest and West, inspiring many young women to try the sport. Coming together. At the turn of the century, tuberculosis and pneumonia devastated large cities, including New York and Chicago. Community leader Conrad Norman, an advocate of physical activity to build a healthy populace, established the Alpha Physical Culture Club in Harlem and fielded the Alpha Big Five basketball team. The Alphas played the Savoy Big Five, a team organized and coached by 24-year-old Abe Saperstein. They also played the Second Story Mories, an all-white team established in 1922 out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is significant in the move toward integration of basketball. The NBA, launched in 1946 and became integrated 4 years later, effectively ended the Black Five era in 1950. Here are some of the early Black Five teams. Basketball. What a chapter in American history. When Dr. James Naismith invented the game in 1891 in Springfield, Massachusetts, he could have had no idea of the impact on the country. From a high school physical education curriculum to college and professional play, from a prescription to avoid disease and create better health, to an arena for dance, music, and athletic entertainment. Basketball, America's sport, played around the world. Black Vibes is trademarked with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It refers to all black basketball teams between 1904 and 1950. I encourage you to visit and support the Black Fives Foundation.